Hi everyone. I wondered if I was to ask you to consider your favourite movie of all time, what would that be? And why would you choose that amongst every other film that you've watched? Why do you love that one so much? What was it about that film that really has stayed with you and stuck with you? For a lot of people, they maybe would settle on something like a romantic comedy, something that is simple, uncomplicated, and often has a very straightforward script and a pretty predictable ending. For me, I find it hard to really invest myself in that kind of film, to get absorbed into that kind of film. I prefer things that are a bit more edgy, a bit more true to life, with a bit of drama in them, and maybe even a clear battle between a force for good and a force for evil. It's one of the reasons that I love the Lord of the Rings films so much, for example. But it isn't just movies that offer that kind of contrast. The same could be said about artwork as well. When you look at a picture, a painting or a drawing, and it's amazing to see how someone can create something like that from what's in front of them, and it can even look almost lifelike, photo-like, really tidy and clean. But there's something to be said about an artist who can do that whilst also capturing a sense of emotion and a sense of edginess to it as well, a sense of drama to what is in front of them. And with that, how many sketches or artists' impressions have you seen of the Christmas story? If you just picture a Christmas card, perhaps one that your Gran might send to you, with the lovely Christmas scene on it, a manger scene, perfectly ordered, with everything laid out really neat and tidy, almost symmetrical, the animals perfectly spaced out, and also the animals really chilled out as well. I wonder if in reality, in that moment 2,000 years ago, it was actually like that. I suspect probably not. If you've ever been around animals, wildlife, especially wild wildlife, you would know that it's not often like that. And if you've ever been present, and I'm sure maybe none of you have, but at the birth of a child, you know that it's not quite as the songs describe it. Think about the Christmas songs, a little town of Bethlehem and away in a manger. They paint this picture of this perfectly serene, still, simple moment. There's a line in Away in a Manger that says that the cattle are lowing, the baby awakes, but little Lord Jesus no crying he makes. I'm not convinced it was really quite like that. We tend to romanticize and sanitize so many things. And we make them more clean, more tidy, more airbrushed, more perfect, more idealized. But in fact, when we think about things that truly matter, they're often in reality a bit more edgy, a bit more messy. Can I say messy just now? Well done, Argentina. More edgy, messy, more real. And that's not to say that it isn't good sometimes to step out of reality, to escape the real and hide away in the simple, in the clean, in the tidy, in the perfect, in the airbrushed fiction. But actually, I think we're all crying out for something that is truly real, something that is genuinely relatable to our own lives. And so no matter where you live today as you're watching this, whether you're in Oban or you're further afield, maybe on one of the islands, I think we're all walking a similar path in life, a path that has real life victories and also a path that has some real challenges as well. And so when we think about the Christmas story and the way it's been portrayed in song and in artwork, I think we have to answer that honestly and say, was it really like that? I think no. I think it was more edgy, more real, more dramatic than the pictures and the songs present. But that in itself raises another important question. Why has this particular moment in history been remembered for thousands of years, celebrated for thousands of years, across numerous cultures? And I think it's because it wasn't like what the Christmas cards that we have today portray. It wasn't like that. Perhaps I think it's been remembered, it's been celebrated because, in fact, in reality, it was actually on one level very normal, very real, very earthy, very gritty for the people who were involved in it in that moment. And then therefore it's something that we can all relate to. All the challenges that unfolded in that moment are things that are similar to real life. But I think it's also remembered and celebrated because it reveals something more than that as well. It speaks to an incredible promise and an incredible hope that is offered to every single person across the world. And we're going to invite Becky to unpack that a little further.
As Stuart has so beautifully pointed out, there are so many things in our lives that are airbrushed and perfect. Standards we are shown that are completely unrealistic. So when we think about the Christmas story, I think it can be easy to see it as if it were a Hollywood film production. Perfect hair and makeup, an easy amble along the road, a clear, beautiful starry night, and a calm stable where a baby is born. But as Stuart has said, we highly doubt that it was actually like that. So this real Christmas story, the story that is hard and earthy and gritty and messy, we believe this story is really important to us today. Maybe more important than we might first realize. So let's dig a little deeper and think about this real Christmas story. The newlyweds, Mary and Joseph, who were still pretty young, had to make this incredibly long and difficult journey. Most of the stories we have portray them with a donkey there to help carry Mary and to carry their goods. But we don't actually know if they had a donkey at all. They may have had to walk the whole thing on foot, and with Mary heavily pregnant, that would have made it incredibly difficult. So once they got to Bethlehem, they actually needed to find somewhere to stay. And that would have been so stressful. They're there, they're tired, they've had an incredibly long journey, and everywhere is full. In my head, I imagine a tired, worried, emotional Mary and Joseph. They're almost at breaking point. They could crack. Just need somewhere to stay the night. That's all they're asking for. And then they get told they can use a stable. A drafty, probably mucky stable full of noisy animals and nothing but a feeding trough to place their soon-to-be-born baby in. It's far from ideal. It is a story that is real and earthy and gritty, in it's so messy in places and chaotic and stressful. Things didn't go to plan at all. They had to travel because the powers that be commanded it. They found they were homeless when they arrived, and they only just managed to find somewhere to stay the night that would be dry. And this is a story that sees this young family, once Jesus is born, flee for their lives, trying to find refuge, build a life in a new place. This story is not a fairy tale. It isn't the usual story of kings and queens that you might have heard when you were a child. Instead, this is a story of God coming down to earth to join us in the messy, chaotic, sometimes painful life that we lead as humans. This is a story of a God who sent his son as a tiny, vulnerable baby to a young couple who lived in a small town. This is an incredible story of God being with us, Emmanuel. A story of hope that woke shepherds on a hill in the middle of the night because God wanted more than anything else to make a way for us to freely come just as we are in the midst of the messy and the joyful. This is a story of hope that lasts on well beyond the lights and sounds of Christmas when they faded. As Christians, we believe that the Christmas narrative is one of the most powerful stories there is. God coming down to earth just to make a way to get to know you, because each and every one of us is uniquely precious to God. So that is why we take time at Christmas to pause between great food and exciting presents and fun carols to remember the birth of Jesus, to remind ourselves that in the midst of our crazy, messy, painful, joyful, busy lives, there is a God who is with us, who understands us, who gives us hope no matter what we are going through. Above all else, this is a powerful story of love coming down to earth to make a difference, to give hope, to show us that there is a different way to live. So this Christmas, whether we are here with joyful expectation or whether we are struggling to find hope, we are invited into the stable to see for ourselves the immense gift that is Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us, who is waiting to welcome us with joy and love and peace.
Called or uncalled, God is present. That's the motto carved above the door of the house of Carl Gustav Jung, the well-known thinker and mind doctor, psychoanalyst from last century. For him, that statement, in a way, contains the entire reality of the human psyche. If we wish to find God, even if we do not believe in him or her, you need only find a still, silent place within yourself and ask God to let you find him, or perhaps let him find you. The Christian Christmas story is a warm and attractive one. It does have an appeal. Even without a specific faith, it carries meaning and can expose deep and limitless truth. Indeed, as all good myths do. God forbid that we diminish the importance of the mythical, symbolic imagination. But like any good story, if we do not let it touch our hearts and lives, it will remain on the surface and have little impact. For Christians, the Christmas story expresses our faith that God took on fully our human nature. That's fine. God has human flesh. So what? What difference does that make? The answer to that question is the important lived reality that Christians need to experience. With Christ sharing fully our one humanity, the greater reality is that we now share in his godness. Yes, we believe that as human beings, we share in the life of God in his divinity. The God we believe in is no longer outside us, a God giving demanding directions and standing back, watching with admiration the parts of humanity that seem to be working well and dismissing the less successful. God is now within. God is an event. God is what is happening within us and among us as we go about our daily, ordinary human lives. The tale of Christ's birth from Mary in the poverty-stricken Christmas story speaks of a God who longs to be at the heart of human struggle, deprivation, and failure. The child lying in the manger is the word to each one of us. I want to know and experience what it's like to be you and to share it. And I wish to reassure you that I am with you and always have been and always will be. A God who identifies himself with us is a God who is happening in every step and circumstances in the life of each one of us, and especially in the broken bits, the sugly insecure bits, and those painful bits that we ourselves reject about ourselves. There is potential here for freedom and joy. Somehow or other, the very telling of the story, and note that the Christmas story is one of the few stories that the poor and the weak alone have control of. The very experiencing of that story seems to promote a humble solidarity and a caring, compassionate belonging to one another that emerges at this time in a shared and fulfilling freedom, peace, and joy. We Christians call that human experience a participation in the life of God. I wish you and your families a fulfilling peace and joy this Christmas. Nálaigh Díal.